Hey, what's up? It's Tuesday. I'm Jim here for The Rough Cuts, and today's film is The Help. This girl, Skeeter, who graduates college and comes back to Jackson, Mississippi, and wants to become a journalist slash author, and she decides to write a book from the perspective of the Help, who are these black maids who help everyone in Jackson, Mississippi, and hear their stories, and it's right around the time of civil rights. And this is kind of revisionist history, since this didn't actually happen. There isn't an actual book from the perspective of the Help, because in actuality in the 60s, this probably would not have happened, since it didn't happen. So this whole film has this kind of feel of like kind of tucking you in at night, be like, see, it wasn't so bad, this book thing happened, and you're like, but that didn't happen. The reality is far darker than even the reality that is the reality. This is somewhat like The Blind Side in its racial politics, because picking a white protagonist who helps a large group of these black maids have their voices heard, which they couldn't do without her, and giving her, like, you know, kind of this almost sanctimonious, like, godlike thing. I feel like this film kind of is more interested in the white actors and in the white characters than it is the black characters. It's much more interested in Skeeter, who, like, has this whole thing with this guy who works on an oil rig, who's just a drunk, shitty person. It's like one of the most unconvincing romances I think I've ever seen in a movie. They have no connection the first time. Then he, like, comes back out of pretty much nowhere story-wise. The film isn't structured to support it. It just kind of comes in and you're like, alright. It really has no redeeming value for the plot, although they get in an argument which makes you think, like, you know, she's willing to sacrifice everything for this book that helps her career. She breaks up with her crap offshore oil rig boyfriend who wasn't really that great in the first place. You're like, oh no. Oh, the sacrifices we make for our art. There's a particular scene at the end that I found incredibly insulting and shows kind of the racial politics of this movie. Skeeter, Emma Stone's character's mother, played by Allison Janney, you know, the whole film they're trying to find out why she fired this maid, Constantine. So she, like, fires her, and to be honest, I felt like the scene played more for us to feel bad for Allison Janney for firing her. It didn't seem to really care as much about the perspective of the maid who was being fired after being there for, like, was it like 26 years or something, I think they say in the movie. Like, that wasn't as important. And that is disturbing. I really think Emma Stone was pretty bad in this. I mean, there's been, if you look at any review of this, I can't actually find many praises for her performance. I don't hear anyone really talking about it, because, I mean, there's not much to talk about. I think it's really bland, and I actually like her in things like Zombieland and Superbad. I did not like her role in this. I thought it was kind of very hammy and self-serving. And the part where everyone's reading the book The Help, and then Bob Dylan plays, that made me realize that when people think liberal ideas, Bob Dylan actually plays. This film's made like a Sandra Bullock, like, tearjerker movie, but it's trying to tackle this serious issue at the same time, which is a kind of an ugly mix. The film itself is an ugly and just bad piece of filmmaking. I don't think it's very well structured. I don't think it's very well made. The only two real maid characters who are really fleshed out are played by Viola Davis and Octavia Spencer. Every other black maid in this film, or any character who's black who aren't those two, are interchangeable as far as this film goes. They're never really given distinct personalities, you know, the way the white characters in this film are. There's so many white characters in this film, it's ridiculous. And it's kind of like, this film thinks it's doing a good job, it's really not. It's way more interested in the perspective of the white characters than it is in the black characters. It's doing revisionist history in kind of an uninteresting, shitty, unhonest way. Revisionist history is good for very silly things, or for X-Men First Class, but in terms of The Help, it's doing it in a very ugly, kind of mean-spirited, what's the purpose of saying that there was this book that was about the Help? It feels to me like you're just making white people feel better. And in terms of the civil rights movement, I'm pretty sure white people don't really need to feel better, because who gives a shit? It's like a film that's against racism, but I don't think this film would really talk to any black people because they're probably scared of them. It wants to have good intentions, but the actuality of the film itself is is not a good intention at all. Because revisionist history, you have to think, what's the purpose of it, you know? And most of the time I watch revisionist history, the joke is that this isn't real history. But this film doesn't really do that. If we don't learn the lessons of the past, we're doomed to repeat it. And when I look at The Help, I think of that quote, is that, you know, we're not learning the lessons of the civil rights movement from The Help. We're learning it in a very doctored, holding your hand way that isn't the honest way that it really should be told in. This honestly gets under my skin a little, because I don't like the implications of it. I don't like the movie itself. I didn't really find it that entertaining. I I would really advise you, you know, do everyone a big favor and don't ever pay for this movie. Like, download it. So if you've seen The Help and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments, and subscribe if you would like to The Rough Cuts. Subscribe to my main channel, which is below in the info box. Follow me on Twitter, Tumblr, and potentially VHX, and follow Earl Barrett Holloway's Tumblr, who does the picture at the beginning and the end of this video. And that's it.